The debate about Huw Edwards has opened up a wider debate about media double standards, police double standards, the responsibilities of public institutions. As reported in an exclusive interview by Tom Bryant and Adam Aspinall in the Daily Mirror, the young person at the centre of the controversy revealed disturbing details about their relationship with Huw Edwards. This now 21-year-old individual described how Edwards paid them £35,000 for explicit photographs, characterising the relationship as one of manipulation and exploitation. There's also a story which has come out about Edwards at a railway station where he was photographed trying to meet up with somebody, and instead meeting up with their stepfather, who was not at all positive, as one would expect. And I think this story seems to be much bigger than the story that was first broke, and one of the most striking aspects of it is the actual double standards in how such cases are handled by both the media and the law. The young man expressed disbelief over the BBC's handling of the situation, particularly their decision to keep Edwards on the payroll despite knowing about his arrest over the indecent images of children, and he accused the corporation of protecting Edwards, suggesting a lack of accountability and transparency. He criticised the BBC Director General Tim Davie, saying, "I feel like the BBC is trying to protect Edwards. Mr. Davie needs to quit." The situation becomes even more controversial when considering the financial aspects. Edwards received an additional £40,000 pay rise on top of his already substantial salary, despite his arrest and subsequent scandal. So he was then paid a £300,000 annual pension. The Culture Secretary believes he should be handing some of that back to society. A generous compensation, coupled with the BBC's reluctance to dismiss Edwards immediately, raises questions about the institution's priorities and its ethical standards. And the young person has also highlighted the broader concern about Edwards' behaviour, suggesting that he might not be the only one involved in such transactions with the newsreader. And this point underscores a possible systemic issue within the BBC, where whistleblowers' concerns have reportedly been overlooked and problematic behaviour has been tolerated or ignored because these people are too big to fail. But in the end, think about it. All Edwards was doing was reading from an auto cue. There is so much power held in broadcast media by people who are not talented, by people who are reading from an auto cue, by producers who've been promoted beyond their capacity. And these people manipulate those with real power, and they lord it over them. The people who are collecting the news, the journalists, the actors, the performers who are put in front of the cameras, pushed around by snotty-nosed producers and so part-time managers who don't really know what they're doing. The fake calls from so-called producers or runners who say, "Oh, we'd like you on the show tomorrow," and you get everything ready, and then tomorrow comes and say, "Oh, we went in a different direction." But they're just massaging. They're on a list. They're on a list, and they're busy playing games with people's lives because they have the power and the position to be able to do so. And it's about power, and it runs through the media world, and it's pernicious. And if you have a good agent, then you're protected from some of this. If you don't, you're not. And individuals who are caught up in this, like this young person, it's very difficult to know how to behave. The revelations have sparked this broader discussion about the role of the media and the legal systems in handling cases involving influential figures, powerful people. The disparity in how individuals are treated based on their status, their connections, the idea of managing problems, the idea of managing people. Television is dominated by this idea of management. Manage a problem away. And the BBC's decision to delay action against Edwards is about management until it was publicly unavoidable. It reflects this troubling tendency to prioritise the institutional reputation over accountability. Not to think of tomorrow, to think of simply keeping today on the rails. And the show is more important than ethical responsibility. Power is more important than ethical responsibility. Actually, power is more important than a good show. As the case progresses, with Edwards set to face sentencing on September the 16th, the young person's call for a fresh start, for clarity, is a poignant reminder of the personal toll such incidents take on victims. The case serves as a stark illustration of the need for institutions to uphold higher standards. The young person says, at the time, no charges were brought against Mr. Edwards, and the BBC had also been made aware of significant risks to his health. Today, we've learnt of the conclusion of the police process in the details presented to the court. If at any point during the period Mr. Edwards was employed by the BBC, he had been charged, the BBC had determined it would act immediately to dismiss him. In the end, at the point of charge, he was no longer an employee of the BBC. And it's just terribly, terribly sad. It's terribly, terribly sad. It underscores the whole story underscores the media's responsibility to report matters like this with integrity, without bias, and to ensure that justice is pursued transparently and fairly, but also that people are treated with respect. I was going to say with kindness, but I realise I fall into what people are now suggesting is the woke pit. With respect. To be treated with respect. That is the basic principle. To be treated with kindness, maybe that's a little bit more, but to be treated with respect. And the BBC and the media, the broadcast media, is riddled with an obsession of treating people without respect, of looking down on them, treating them as commodities. Oh, we'll call you back. Keeping people on tenterhooks, stringing people along because they have the power to do it. It's deeply, deeply wrong.